Well, good day there, folks. It's Larry, the carnivore pensioner, here again today. It's the middle of winter here in Oz, and it's pretty cold, but I decided I needed to get out of the house and just get myself some fresh air and have a chat to you guys at the same time. Something I wanted to say right up front today is this: vegans are not our enemies. Like many of you, I spend a bit of time watching social media, Facebook and YouTube videos, and you can't help but notice the tension there is between vegans and carnivores. And at times the attitudes get very heated and very strong. And there's a lot of hate, I'd have to call it hate, that just flows back and forth between the vegans and the carnivores. I think the worst thing I see of all is when I see YouTube videos that are debates between vegans and carnivores. You know, the type of thing where they set up a debate, get a couple of hot-blooded carnivores and hot-blooded vegans and let them go hammer and tongs, and the language gets more intense and the volume gets louder and they're out for each other's blood. I wonder what the purpose of all that is, what it actually achieves. Here's the question, really. How many of us think that a debate like I've just described is going to influence or change anybody? You know, could you imagine somebody sitting listening to a heated debate and thinking, oh wow, I've seen the error of my ways. I'm going to turn and I'm going to change my whole lifestyle because I heard this debate. You see, it's not going to happen, is it? That's not how change takes place. Just to be fair, I'll say this: I don't believe that the majority of carnivores or the majority of vegans are hostile people. They're people that are just trying to look after their health and doing the best thing they know how to get rid of that terrible standard Australian diet, or maybe we could say the standard American diet for those of you from the US, but you know what I mean. Of course, some vegans are militant, and no doubt we've seen images of that. We've seen vegans who want to paint themselves in red paint and go to protests and call us, those of us who eat meat or dairy products, murderers and torturers, and yell abuse at us. But I have to say, I've also seen carnivores do pretty much the same thing. They'll go to vegan rallies and they will deliberately cook and eat meat right in front of them, kind of inflaming the situation on both sides. I don't think that's going to achieve anything either. So today, I wanted to unwrap that a little bit and just have a chat about it as I go out for this walk. You see, those of us who are carnivores, we're living this lifestyle because at some point in our life we made a decision, a pretty radical decision. Some of us didn't realise the day we started just how radical the decision was. It was not just a change of what we eat, it was a change of a whole lifestyle, a change of a whole culture. And we made a life-changing decision to put our health first and to make choices that we believed would improve our health and our sense of well-being and give us a greater purpose for being on this planet. When I think about that, isn't that exactly what the vegans have done? They at some point made a decision to do something about their health, to make a choice, to get rid of sugar, to get rid of processed food, to do something to improve their health and well-being. Now, on all of those points, we're the same, aren't we? We just happen to differ on what we should eat. Of course, we eat meat and they eat vegetables. But we're not really that far apart and we share a lot in common. And look, here's the thing, guys. I would rather, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, but for me, I would rather somebody go vegan, as it were, than eat all the garbage, all the sugars, all the processed food that's involved in the normal, regular diet that we see all around us. I would much rather that. I mean, I would much rather that they chose carnivore, but they have made good choices. So I don't think that vegans are our enemy, and I've got no desire to fight them or to debate. Now we get to the real point. You see, vegans are not our enemy, but who is? Because as carnivores, let me tell you, we certainly have enemies. Much more real enemies than vegans. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the fast food industry that's selling garbage to the community and calling it food. I'm talking about the big food companies that will deliberately target their advertising towards our children, the most vulnerable in the community, and cover their sugar-filled cereal packs with cartoon characters and aim them specifically at children. That gets me angry. You see, in our country, here in Australia, if a company, if a shop, if a store is selling cigarettes, they're not on display. They're inside a cupboard that is locked. The cupboard has no windows. You cannot see the product from the counter. They are completely hidden. And when the girl comes along and opens the cupboard and gets a packet of cigarettes out, the packet itself contains warning about the danger of cigarettes to your health, and rightly so, and I'm glad that we've done that. But what about the sugary soft drinks? What about all the garbage that we call food, but it's just processed stuff made in a factory that has no nutritional value? Why aren't those products hidden from view, away from the eyes of our children at least? And why doesn't the bottle or the package contain a warning that you eat this stuff, it could ruin your health, and have some graphic pictures on them? You know, that's what I'd like to see. That's a real enemy. What about the pharmaceutical companies that are making literally billions of dollars in a drug trade where they are deliberately selling products that they know are dangerous? In many cases, it's been proven over and over again, but they continue to sell them and they make billions. Pfizer alone last year made $158 billion. A big part of that from COVID vaccines. And despite all the stuff that's come out since about those vaccines, they continue to sell them. And what they're doing is they're making money off people's misery. I think that's offensive. I think they are one of the carnivore's enemies. You see, folks, as you will know, money is not in healthy people. Money is not in dead people. Where the real money lies is in sick people. And that's why the whole pharmaceutical world, the whole medical world is geared to sell products to those who are sick, instead of offering them real, genuine solutions to have a good look at what they eat. How long is it since you've heard a doctor ask you what do you eat? I rest my case. You see, we've got plenty of enemies. We've got plenty of work to do, but it's not to fight the vegans. It's to stand up for what we know to be the truth, and to see people's lives change, to see people make life-changing decisions that will set them on the right track and give them a different future, give them a hope. I get passionate about this stuff. You see, these are not just people, folks, they're our families. They're our brothers, our sisters, our sons and our daughters, our mums and our dads. These are real people who are getting ripped off by the system. And we ought to get angry. And we ought to identify the right enemies. And we ought to be proactive in doing whatever is within our grasp to be able to do, to make changes where we can, to change our lives and in turn to change the lives of those around us. Let me stop for a moment. See if you can hear what I hear, hoping the mic's good enough to pick it up. Hear that? That's the Australian bellbird, folks. Endemic in southeastern Australia where I live. That beautiful clear sounding bell. They're a tiny bird and they're very hard to see. They're well camouflaged, they're very small and they're very fast. But they make that beautiful sound. You know, that sound of the bellbirds is for me a childhood sound. It brings back memories of childhood. Beautiful sound. So getting back to our topic, how are we going to get our message out as carnivores? As I've already said, I don't think it's by fighting and debating and adopting a language that's full of hate. I think there's a much more powerful way, a much more simple way, a much more effective way of influencing people and seeing significant change. Do you know what it is? It's simple. Here it is. Keep telling your story. Keep telling your story of what you've done in your life. Stories are powerful. You know, if I tell you my opinion, you can argue with me, you can disagree with me, and we could go hammer and tongs and have a good old debate. Can you see the difference? If instead of arguing I tell you my story and I say, look, this is what's happened to me. I've tried this new way of living, new way of eating, and these are the results in my life. You see, stories are powerful, and it's stories that change lives. You might say, well, I don't have a story. Let me tell you, friends, everybody, every carnivore has a story. No matter how simple you think your story is, or how uninteresting your story is, it's your story, it really happened, and you can tell it, and you will influence people by simply telling your story. I love this. There's a story in the Bible, in the Gospels, where Jesus heals a man born blind, and all sorts of implications suddenly flare up, and this man is dragged before the authorities and questioned for hours, and they keep asking him who it is that healed you, that made you to see. And they wanted to know who he was and by what power he operated. And finally the man who had been blind all his life but could now see, he simply looked at these guys and said, I don't know what his label is, but I'll tell you this. This is what I know for sure. Once I was blind, but now I see. You see, that's a powerful story, isn't it? You can simply tell your story by saying, look, once my life was like this, but I made this decision to change my life, to change my diet, to change the way I eat. I made a radical, life-changing decision, and now I see. You see, it's that simple, but that powerful. Some of you might know that I was interviewed by Dave Mack this week on his YouTube channel, No Carb Life. And I was invited onto Dave's channel to simply do what I've been talking about, to simply tell my story. I'll put a link to the interview in the notes below. But you see, that's what Dave does. His whole YouTube channel is getting very ordinary people, people like you and me, to come onto his channel and simply tell their story. And he's now recorded over 500 interviews. He's a champion for the carnivore cause. Ordinary people telling their story, saying, I can't necessarily explain it all, but once I was there and now I'm here. You know, people tune into Dave Mack's YouTube channel every day and they hear story after story after story after story. I was there. That's how I got started on this journey. I started to listen to people's stories, and the stories are compelling. The stories are convincing. And when you see it's not just one odd person here and there, but there's hundreds of people who have the same story, it begins to sink into your being. And you begin to think maybe there's something in this. And you make that life-changing decision just to start. See, folks, that's what I mean when I say vegans are not the enemy. There's so much more important issues at stake than arguing with vegans. Yeah, we've got to be clear about who the real enemies are. We've got to know our story. We've got to be able to tell it whenever we have an opportunity. I want to encourage you today, even if you've never thought about this before, to get a pad and paper and just begin to jot down your story. It's a great exercise to do, just to have some written record that flows and makes sense, explaining your story on Carnivore. And then begin to be ready to share that story with as many people as possible, using every available means. Because I believe that we can do this. I believe that we can make significant change in people's lives and in our communities' lives, simply by telling our story. Friends, my real purpose in starting this YouTube channel is not with the thought of getting a lot of views or thousands of subscribers or making a lot of money. My motivation is that I might have a small part to play in influencing people to make the best decision of their life, to do something about their health. I'm here to encourage those who have started this journey, because there's obstacles everywhere. And I wanted to walk with you as you walk with me in this journey that we've undertaken together, to support one another, to see this journey through to the end. That's why I started this channel. Oh boy, I'm puffing a bit after that walk, but great to be outside. Look folks, thanks for watching today. Keep pressing on, keep telling your story, because we can win this fight. We can make substantial change, we can make effective change, simply by telling one story at a time. I'll see you on the next video. Till then, goodbye for now.